And there we go. Okay.
Okay. Welcome to the Finance and Fiscal Planning Committee meeting for November 24th. I'm David Warner. Let's go and let's take turns introducing ourselves. Heather?
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm Michael Falcone's assistant, facilities secretary.
Amy?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Amy Ashley Moore. I'm the district treasurer.
Michael?
Michael Falcone, I'm the Director of Facilities and Operations.
Steve?
Steve Morton, a parent from Woodland High School now, middle and high school.
You're a very modest man. Hugh?
Hugh McCauley, town resident.
Laser?
Laser alert network administrator.
Great. Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie McGee. I'm a parent of a 6th grader.
Carol?
Carol Allen, community member. Hi, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hi. Ashley?
Good evening, everyone. Ashley Pineda, GCSD board trustee and parent of 2 children in the district.
All right. Deborah?
Debbie Diones, community member and caseworker at ECP.
Chris?
Chris Fallon, parent. I don't know what we're saying.
Okay. Anybody I missed? Okay, all good. Now, how do I share my screen?
On the bottom says share screen. Should be a green.
Share screen. Okay, and I want to pick a window with an agenda in it. And boom. Can everybody see it?
Yep, there it goes.
Okay, so we have just completed item 1 of our agenda, which is introductions. This is a very short meeting. We have basically an hour because after we scheduled the meeting, the board decided to have a special meeting to deal with some other topics, and so they're starting at 6:30. So our goal is to kind of get it in and out by 5 p.m. So we'll get us by 6 p.m. So we'll get as far as we can. This is a fiscal planning and facilities committee meeting. However, in terms of the finance topics, we've got a couple of things going on. One is that our school budget development, our 5-year projection, our comprehensive annual financial report stuff, that's all usually handled by the assistant superintendent for business. At the moment, Mary O'Neill has gone to Blindbrook. And so we're in the process of getting an interim assistant superintendent for business. Congratulations to Mary, but we're working on getting a new person in here, and until that new person is in, we're going to maybe concentrate a little more on the facility side of the topics for now. We do have an audit committee meeting coming up because our annual audit has been completed, so we'll be scheduling that in the near future and dealing with that. Yes, Chris. You're muted.
I see that this year that's a board committee, which
yes,
means
that is a committee of the board.
And I know in the past when I've been in audit committee meetings that the auditors, when they're doing presentations, are something they require members of the public to be there. So if you're looking for volunteer, I volunteer.
That's wonderful. Yes, we are looking for volunteers. If you have financial skills, all the better. If you want to do business with the district or you have contracts with the district, don't come. We don't want conflicts of interest. But otherwise, you're welcome to come.
Thank you.
Okay. So Chris Valen volunteers for audit committee.
Carol can volunteer to come also.
All right. Dr. Allen. Okay. Very good. So on to the facilities portion of our meeting. We're going to first go over briefly the status of the district in terms of open issues having to do with COVID-19. and I think things have gotten updated just a little bit since I wrote this. So we're going to start, and we're going to go bullet by bullet. Mike Falcone, our facilities director, can talk to all of this sort of thing. Leah Jackson, I have no new issues. Need ECP playground authorization for Board of Education. Mike, how are we on that? What's our status there?
We're waiting for the right funding code, and then we already picked out, the principal already picked out the playground, and my support staff will, the minute she has the code, she's going to make a purchase order and put a move on that.
Good. Highview, principal's office windows open, fans available.
Wait. So David, so we effectively, because that was my sense from the last meeting, that we have actually already authorized those playgrounds and don't need to, there's no need for the board to intervene anymore. This is just going forward now.
I just got the okay. First of all, I just got the okay today to go forward with it. Okay, but number two, I guess we're just going over where we're at in that building.
So I pushed for there to be an agenda item if there needed to be an agenda item. And so the okay has been passed down the chain of command.
Okay.
Good. Oh, by the way, this is Tanya Dragic, board member.
Hello, Tanya.
Hi, Tanya.
Well, how are you?
Okay.
Hi, Amy.
Highview, principal's office. The windows are open, the fans are available. So Gary's sitting there with his windows open and getting ventilation that way. He's got a fan if he needs one. Am I correct?
If he wants a fan, he can have a fan, but no need for in his office. He didn't think it was necessary. But we have exhaust fans in the rest of the building. That's pulling a draw. He also keeps his door open.
Yes, that takes care of that. Okay.
Yes.
As long as he does that, but if he needs to close it, all right, windows open.
And all of the exhaust fans are constantly on in that
Good.
building.
Need playground equipment authorization from BOE? Is that the same status?
I just got the okay, so we will be going forward to order the playground, and I'll keep you posted on the minute we order it, when what's the lead time, and when they can start installing it.
Good. RJ Bailey, Legionella plumbing cross connection, second chlorine flush and test, results pending.
Yes.
Have results come back?
Results, verbally, the results came back. Everything was cleared, cleaned. We hyperchlorinated the system. The reason why it did not pass as the high school did, because we did the exact same thing in both buildings, is that when I went over there, I discovered there's a cross connection. So instead of flushing out the hot water heater, it was flushing out just the faucet where the cross connection was happening.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all taken care of. Yeah.
So, yes. So I just had a question because I had heard that there wasn't hot water at RJ Bailey for a number of weeks, and has that been fixed now?
Well, the minute I found out, which was 2 days ago, that the test came back negative, no trace whatsoever, I immediately told the maintenance mechanic to put the hot water on. And I get it that everybody complains that there's no hot water. We turned it off out of precaution. Everybody knew that. Okay. Even the administrators, everybody knew. I turned it off out of precaution, and we would turn it on the minute we came back negative. So the minute it came back negative, we turned the hot water back on.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Good. Chris, you have your hand up?
No, maybe I'm not following correctly. So when the hot water is on, you're saying it will fail again?
No.
Sorry, I just
Okay.
want to cross the T's, dot the I's.
No, that's okay. Here it is. We narrowed it down that it was in the hot water heater. Okay. So we needed to hyperchlorinate it to kill it. And that's what we did. The minute we killed it, yes, you can turn the hot water back on. It's clear. Okay. It only built up in a warm tank that's been not used. Now all the rest of the water cold water, we've been using throughout the whole time because we were cleaning. So that wasn't affected at all. That's why they came up negative. We came up clean. It was
Okay.
just the hot water side, but we're
Right,
good.
so it's like accelerating the flush and fill for a hot.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
All right, very good. Anybody else? Okay. Woodlands, Unit B fans installed. Legionella tests back with negative result, meaning we were good the first time around on them.
Yes,
And then need security vestibule authorization from board. How are things, Mike?
Okay, great. Okay, so the minute the board said, let's go forward, I contacted with the architect's engineer. I asked them on the next meeting if it's okay with our committee to meet with you. I want them to discuss two things. Number one, first of all, I already asked them, I need a cost estimate. I needed also their cost estimate of the security vestibule. Okay, I also want a timeline and the process that they're going to be taking. So I'm going to give you that the minute they give me the information on the vestibule. I also told them about the EPC because I know this facility keeps on saying EPC. I want them to talk to you to tell you exactly how that's facilitated. Okay, so exactly what their process is and what they're going to be doing, what comes first, second, and third, and what's included in the EPC. I also told them that we were going to talk to them about prioritizing small projects that we can go ahead and start with the finances that we have. So they're going to come to us and they're going to discuss with us that plan, that we can go forward of what's reachable, what we can do with or without a bond, and how much things are going to cost.
But I thought that the vestibule was fully financed by the, I'm sorry.
Smart schools money.
Yeah.
It is. We
Okay.
still need a cost test. It's not a free for all that you say, oh, let's build. We still go out for competitive pricing. We have to go out for competitive pricing. That's the law. So therefore, once they give an estimate of how much they think it's going to cost, they're going to put it out to bid to many contractors to see if we can get it even less or more. It depends on what it comes in. Hopefully, less than what they stated. Okay, and then we go forward with that. But I'm almost positive we're going to have to dish out the money to get the money back. The state does not say, okay, here's let's say 450,000. No, they don't. They say you will get up to 450,000. Okay, but we're going to have to dish it out, then show them that it's completed, and then it comes back.
Okay.
So in any
So we have to have the money up
in the
front.
money that we have, okay, when the architect says it's X amount of dollars, say 400,000, their fees 20,000, let's just say. So we got to make sure 420,000 set aside, okay, from any of our funds, so we can complete this project. Because the minute it's completed, the forms is filled out, the SED reimburse us.
For anybody who's not familiar, the security vestibule is basically a guard booth that's going to be put up in front of Woodlands at where the front steps are, because right now you can run on past the guard booth that's inside. We want you to go through lobby guard before you're actually admitted to the building. So we have some state funding to do that, and we've been working on that project.
So what,
So I have a
clarification question
sorry.
there.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Ashley.
Thanks. So Mr. Falcone, thank you for moving the EPC along. I appreciate that. On the security vestibule, you said you have a request out for quotes. I just wanted to clarify. I thought I heard during our last BOE meeting, and I'll defer to David and Tanya to correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that the high school administration had looked at the options, decided I think they wanted option 2, but
Yes.
I thought they wanted a modification there, if I had heard properly. If I did, I guess my question is that modification included in what you've requested, Mr. Falcone?
That will be included. So now that I told them to move forward, they're gonna come back on site. They're gonna be almost like starting all over again. Okay, I know I keep on looking at you down here, but the camera's up that way. Okay, so, but they're gonna come back on site to start all over again, take their measurements. At that time, I am going to involve the principal and the security officer. Do we, is that the right name?
Dean Parker, right?
Yeah, Dean Parker, security, the head of security. Okay, I will include them in our conversation on what else we needed, so we can get what this building wants.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
I thought we had done that before we approved requesting the grant.
No, we requested a grant and we went forward saying we're gonna do a vestibule, but no one ever said what plan. Now we're on a planning stage.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I had a question as well.
Tanya.
So I think this is for Amy, to the extent that she can answer. Does that mean that we are going to incur some sort of debt, or that this will have to come out of our capital funds and then be reimbursed by the state?
I would have to take a look at that and get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, good.
A quick question.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Dave. Just new to the meeting. With the security booth, is the design team already involved with an open-ended plan, or are they a specific plan? And is there?
They came up with 3 plans, 3 possible configurations initially, and then the board said we'd like a 4th because we weren't satisfied with everything. So they came up with a 4th. The principal looked at everything and said, you know, I really like option number 2, but slightly modified. And so we've gone through the process of dealing with those 4 different small plans, layouts, like 1-page diagrams.
Okay, just so when they come on site to do their measurement, as Michael said, he's going to review the plan and the change requested by the principal. There's no design change order associated with that, right? There's nothing concrete with their design scope.
Change order only happens when you start work. That's a change order.
But nothing on the design side is expected, right?
The change orders only happen when you start and you're changing the order. Okay, this is still the planning stage. We still have a maximum of what we're gonna be able to get reimbursed. Okay, but they already came in with an estimate that's less than the design. But once again, the board will know how much it's going to cost, or their estimate, and then hopefully when we go out to bid, we'll get lower than what we expect or what they estimated at.
Did you just say you already have an estimate?
No, that was a preliminary estimate.
What was the preliminary estimate?
There are 4 different ones. It might be on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, it might be on a spreadsheet, but once again, now that we're going forward, now we have a plan. That's when we're gonna, it's just like anything in your house. You could say, rough estimate, this is gonna cost a $30,000 bathroom, okay? But then all of a sudden you're gonna say, well, okay, now we definitely know we want that bathroom. What else do we want in it? Okay.
I understand that. I'm just asking for the ballpark figure of which you are already aware.
Wasn't it like around 600,000 or something?
They're all less than that. Some are significantly less.
I see. Okay. Sorry, that was the one that I just remembered.
So just to button this up, when you're refining the cost estimates now, are you focused on one plan, the one the principal liked, with some changes, or are you?
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, board members, I thought you guys preferred a different plan. Are you going along with the judgment of the people in the building administrators? Or will there be a problem once it moves to the board, the full board? And
We've already had the discussion. I think it was an open session discussion.
Yes, but there didn't seem to be a final solution. If I could be misremembering.
So Mr. Smith did provide an answer to the board as to why he preferred a different configuration to the one that, I think I was mostly the one who had a particular preference. So I think with that, it would be prudent to trust him. He's the one who runs the school and knows better than anyone, how people come in and out. So we will be going ahead with his plan. Yeah.
That's great that there was communication. I just don't want to have us go 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So that's great that you guys were in touch. Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Okay, one of the major things that we are trying to do this year is to come up with recommendations for various facilities projects. We have about $4.1 million worth of reserve funds, and we have much more than that in terms of potential projects, both from our building condition survey of all the things we need to fix over the next 5 years, and specifically now in the era of COVID, a lot of air quality and air quality related issues that have kind of come to the fore. So last meeting, we determined that that since we have a lot less money than we have needs, that we needed to prioritize things, and we're going to follow this process. We're generating several preliminary options based on existing estimates. We have various estimates from primarily from BBS and a little bit from CSR, our previous architecture firm. And then once we have a general idea of some options of what we might like to see, we will invite BBS in. We will share with them what our preliminary ideas are, and they will come back, create different options for us, flesh them out in terms of what the actual expenditures will be, what things are required, how much they'll cost, come back to us and present that to us, and then we'll go back and forth as to what those options should look like. Then we've got to gather feedback from the community. So the thinking is we'll use like a Google Forms or a Survey Monkey survey and try and our best to get input from the community as to what the community will support. And then once we prioritize things, looked at what the community says, we'll make a recommendation to the Board of Education with A, B, and C options, and we'll say this is our preferred option, but if you want to take one of these other 2 options, they're viable as well, and then the board can go forward and figure out which option they like best. So that's the process, and we are currently on step 1. Any questions on that?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I don't agree with your process. We have critical needs in our buildings. I think the architects are the ones who are best able to tell us what those critical needs are in terms of asking which items here would prove catastrophic if we fail to fix them. And those issues should be addressed first.
All right, you may recall.
Community, but we have to save our buildings. And the architects should be the ones in the best position to tell us what is critical that needs to be done first.
You may recall that last time we showed you a priority list from the building conditions survey. And there were items prioritized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the 5 years. That represents what BBS thinks is most important. What they have done at this point is that they have completed the building condition survey. That is, they have gone through a list of many items for each facility to tell us everything that's wrong. And what's supposed to follow that is a 5-year capital plan. The 5-year capital plan would say, do this year 1, and it will specifically lay out which of all of the items drawn from the building conditions survey are the most important and which ones you do first. They have not presented us that final document yet. They've given us the building conditions survey, and they've given us a summary of what the total cost for each facility will be for the things that are highest priority. So one of our first questions will be, what is within the subtotal for each of those? So that is definitely part of what we're going to do. We're going to have to bond that, and we're going to ask them to come and present that to us.
Perhaps I didn't say it as strongly as I feel. For instance, roof repairs, patching versus replacing. For example, we could say, yes, the roof needs to be repaired, but if we fail to do at least a patching, that would be catastrophic for the building. And I'm not just saying, this is at the end of its expected lifespan and should be done. I'm talking about things that are critical that must be done to preserve the buildings.
So
And I
BBS
don't think
should
that's the way they presented it.
come back with that.
I mean, we have to clearly point out that that is the prioritization we need. What is critical as opposed to what should be done.
Okay.
So that has been done, Carol. I think as David pointed out that in the building condition survey, I think the priority one sort of list is the most urgent. And I believe, I don't know, David, if you've shared that Excel file with everyone who is in this meeting where you actually have that list. I'm afraid I'm gonna leave the meeting if I start futzing around too much with my computer, but there was, let me just take a look here. So here it is.
Sorry, it's under the facility tab.
Right,
Yeah.
so it's, yes, so it's, so yes, there are the various, so the price tag for that, I believe was, is that the one where it was around $37 million for?
Year one, and the question, the only question being, have we done some of it already in our air quality fixes? But yes.
Right, so.
It's a big ticket.
Right. So I mean, I think the greater issue is really for perhaps to get people from the community who are better versed at buildings and repairs of buildings and understanding buildings to participate in a meeting with the architects and actually go see the schools themselves to really try to understand, within that priority list, are there things that we need to further sort of tease out as being major priorities, perhaps? Because I think we're dealing really with a number of issues. We only have a little over 4 million. I think we really don't know what kind of a bond the community would be willing to support. So there has to be sort of a coming together of these various factors, right? Between how much money are we actually likely to end up with, and then, with that, what are these major issues that we have to deal with, and also doing it sort of in a transparent way so that the community is really convinced that this is actually really a necessity. So I think that those are kinds of the various things that we have to juggle.
We could also make one of our options be to put the BCS stuff first. And the way that we do that is we figure out, basically we're going to make a big chart, and we're going to say, here are the tasks, and here are the years in the future, and here's how much money we have. What do we concentrate on first? So if you feel that that some subset of the BCS listing of critical projects goes first, then that's how we do it. And we may have to tease out, we have to get more information from BBS to see what subset of what they consider priority one we would go for first, if you don't think we can go for the whole thing.
David, I would add that I think as part of that survey, I don't think the majority of our community would have the expertise to identify themselves what is a priority and what's not necessarily. So I think it would be a good idea if we included what BBS said as the priority in that survey, so the community can see what the architect says is the emergency priority, right? And then they can see if they agree or not, and based off of that, try to get more of an informed response.
Sounds like a good plan. Priorities in survey.
I can't see all the participants. I don't know if Hugh McCauley has joined us, but I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here, Tanya. Hello.
Oh, hey, Hugh. So I don't know if you want to share your thoughts about this. I mean.
Sure. I've listened to everybody. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for your time. You know, I've listened to the comments, and I would make a suggestion based on the industry standards moving forward. There's no doubt that the facilities need repairs. They need capital repairs. What I would suggest is I've asked, in looking at the facilities, I've asked a number of people in the community to serve as subject matter experts.
Good.
I have a gentleman who's an expert in power distribution from incoming all the way to what you plug into your desk. He's electric power distribution with actual work. He's experienced electrician, the whole 9 yards. I have an expert in HVAC and air conditioning heating systems. We have an expert in structurals, roofs, elevators, general equipment, walls, stuff like that. And we have an option in discussing with security. So we got these 4 major players that have volunteered to assist this committee.
Beautiful.
What I would suggest is, and I've mentioned to each of them, and each of these gentlemen, they follow this process during their careers to make work happen in buildings. And it's a standard process. It's not unique to this committee or the buildings. The first thing that needs to happen is these subject matter experts need to walk through with the maintenance manager and BBS, and we need to walk through of each facility from top to bottom. We discussed doing one building or facility. I'm going to call them facilities from now on, not schools and not buildings. Of each facility on a Saturday morning, starting at 7 o'clock, and doing a complete inspection. As we are walking through the facilities and looking at the buildings themselves, we want to hear BBS's priorities and how they determine them for each facility. At the end of our review for that facility, the subject matter experts will then meet again and review those priorities. At the completion of the review of the facilities, after we look at all 4, we'll come back and say, compare it to any existing documentation that you've already received that says these are the priority things that have to happen. There's not enough capital in reserve to fix the problems, and maybe it's not a good idea. And I'll go into that a little further. But once the subject matter experts have gone through the buildings and taken a look at what has happened and where we are and what needs to be done, including some projects that are ongoing. So, for example, if we're walking through the Woodslands facility, we'd expect to see the drawings for the proposed security checkpoint and how that ties in. A recommendation will then, with this committee, be made to the committee, passed on to the board. A price tag established. The cap, and let's just say at this point, the board agrees that the projects and the priority and the methodology used, they're satisfied with it and they're satisfied with the numbers. The dollars involved, the capital project, I would suggest the town has a new committee. And it's called the Financial Advisory Committee. And it's made up of 10 individuals, and the 10 individuals are either a vice president or managing partners at some of the biggest financial houses in the country. And they're volunteering. Mr. Feiner got them. You got people, vice presidents from Merrill Lynch. You have representatives from the Federal Reserve. You have people from Cantor Fitzgerald. These are people that buy and sell town and municipal and school bonds every hour. every hour. That's all they do is notes and bonds. And what they're saying is that a lot of communities, towns, and school districts are taking advantage of the very low interest rates to do capital projects. The problem is a capital project on a bond has to start within 6 months of the bond being issued and has to be completed within 24 months of that bond. There's some exceptions, but as a rule, that's the industry standard. I'm not sure what the bond rating is for the school district right now, but the town is still holding on to its AA, 2 AAA double, they've got 2 AAA ratings. And so if the board approves it, have the financial advisory committee take a look at what's being proposed. And the reason that's important is that in this environment, to be able to have an outside company that's going to write your bonds eventually and sell them on the primary market to give you an okay that you're doing the right thing. If you go to the public and say, we took advantage of this and they gave us feedback, maybe we wanted to do a little bit more borrowing, maybe we wanted to do a little less borrowing, but the public will appreciate that second outside look. And it's free. The town could not afford the $10,000 an hour fee for these board members. And don't kid yourself, that's their rate. It's $10,000 an hour if you had to pay each of these people. And they're doing it because it's the right thing to do. None of the people involved, and I lost my video, but I hope my audio is still there.
Your audio is good.
Okay. So none of the people are eligible to manage our bonds directly. So they've passed off some of it to other companies who've agreed to do that. Okay. So, you got this great opportunity to do it, but it's going to start with the facility inspection, right? And feedback based with BBS walking through at the same time. It's got to be an unencumbered look at every square foot of the building, from the basements to walking on the roofs. And these subject matter experts, they weren't picked out of a hat. I know these individuals personally. They all do new construction on a daily basis. The power distribution person is working 42 stories up in the air on scaffolds in New York City, supervising electric work. The rest of the people have done either HVAC or structural work. One of the individuals involved was responsible for 452 post offices between New York City and Albany. So he's got a lot of experience in HVAC and buildings. So that's what I would recommend. If you want to do it, it's a great way to do it. You need to be able to go to the voters in the spring and say, we went to this process and this is how we came up with the numbers and this is the priorities. And you protect the investment and you ask for the capital, and I think you have a good shot at doing it. If you take BBS and ask them to tell you what to do, and ask them to write the scope of work and have them as the primary bidder, no one in the industry would agree with that. No one in the construction or building management industry would agree with that. You have to have your own people in-house to do it. In addition, the Commissioner of Public Works, the acting commissioner, Richard Fahn, has agreed to have his internal architect engineers support this team. So if you get a proposal or a scope of work and we need an interpretive issue, you're talking about, again, engineers that the town does not have to handle, whether they're structural engineers or industrial engineers for the lobby or professional engineers overseeing a job. So that's my take on the whole thing. And it's up to the board to decide what direction you want to go in. Do you want to go ahead and try and do something a little different and maybe
well, speaking as an individual board and committee member, I would certainly welcome any second opinion I can get, and I would try and run that concurrently with my process. And what you're telling me is that maybe I should do that before I take my survey. I do need to go back to the administration. We are in a COVID-19 pandemic, so we have to get access to the facilities. We have to then get BBS architects to be available for the tour and bring people in. We've done tours before later in the process, so doing it perhaps towards the beginning of the process is a little bit better. So I would favor that.
We're
How
not,
do other members of the board here feel?
David, let me clarify what I said, though. I'm not talking about tours. I'm talking about the subject matter experts reviewing facilities, not a tour. I'm not talking about opening up the buildings. We're not talking about that. What I'm talking about is subject matter experts doing an evaluation of the building compared to BBS. It's not a tour. It's not open to the public. We certainly don't need that. We don't want, a dozen people on this walk around. It's a pretty intense process. There's a checklist to follow. And so it's not a tour, it's an inspection, and there's a major difference.
Okay, then I have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
If it's public, I have no problem doing it. If it's not public, then we have to, it gets a little more complicated. We'll check on that.
Okay, the second thing is on the survey.
So you're the person to contact, correct?
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
Okay.
The second thing I would mention on the survey is I would hold off on any surveys until this process is completed and the board has and we've had the subject matter experts have had an opportunity to review the information with BBS, and in conjunction with BBS and this committee, put together a capital investment priority list. And at that point, you can solicit feedback. The only thing I would say about surveys at this point is the community. There was a couple of surveys have been issued in the last couple of weeks that were not professionally generated. And if you're going to do a survey down the road, the board must take that into consideration, that surveys should be professionally generated moving forward and not, it's an expertise that is overlooked, I think. But
we'll deal with that. Now, can you provide me with information on who the members of the committee are so that we can present this back to the board and the administration?
Sure, we can give you the names, but I'm going to say this. If these people, if it's, we'll give you some a little bit of background on them but
that would be helpful.
All right. Sure. But again, their purpose is to you need somebody, and Mr. Falcone, we respect, his position. And, but, if you're asking the community to move forward and approve some capital money, you're probably looking, what I would do is, and I've said it publicly, is you need to have the support of both the Financial Advisory Committee for the town, because if you don't have their support, there's something wrong with the plan. And secondly, you need to really know what condition of facilities are in, not just take BBS's word for it. Okay, so we'll get you that information.
Very good. Thank you. All right, so.
Any other questions?
Does anybody else want to weigh in on this?
Just have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
At the end of the finalizing process where we get the list of items that are, have to be done immediately, they're the priorities. Is the next step to generate formal bid packages, or are these subject matter experts going to generate those numbers for construction purposes? Like, what's their point? Are they just getting us a finer number?
The subject matter experts will identify along with BBS what the priority should be for each facility moving forward. It would be, I'm not sure within the school district staff at this point or BBS who would generate scope of works for each individual item. For example, if a roof needed to be put on the mansion, there should be a scope of work detailing that work. I don't know whether the school, Mr. Falcone's staff can do that or BBS would do that. If there's for example, an elevator or a boiler work to be done or anything like that, generating scope of works, we're not sure who presents that. Mr. Falcone, who would prepare a scope of work for a specific item?
On
Go ahead, Mr. Falcone.
every job, the architect always puts down the scope of work.
Okay,
So that's already done in every job that you know of. Any
Okay.
job that an architect does, he puts down the scope of work.
okay, and that may be true in certain categories, and it certainly may be true in the district, but that's not always the case in industry.
Oh,
Okay,
you're telling me, okay, for an example,
I'm-
if you are being the GC, you're right, because most people don't do scope of work. But whenever an architect is involved, they always put down the scope of work.
that's true.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've
Mr.
been
Falcone.
a lot of jobs. There's been every architect that I've dealt with, they write down the scope of work.
And Mr. Falcone, that's fine. The question was, would the subject matter experts or the architects do the scope? And I said to the person is, to my knowledge, I'm not sure whether it was done internally or by your architects. That was my response. So to clarify that, it is by your architects. All right. So that answers the gentleman's question. I don't have any video, so I can't see who's asking me questions right now, but so it would be the priority list would be developed and approved by the board, and then each item would be, the scope of work would be developed by the architects, subject to review by the maintenance manager and his staff.
I'm just curious what the end product is of the walkthroughs. Are we just rehashing the walkthrough of BBS, getting finer industry input, then generating a scope of work, then generating bids, then getting final numbers for financial consideration, then are we checking what's available, then presenting that for funding? Like
what's going to happen is that they're going to, the two parties are going to agree with each other and disagree with each other at different points along the process. And if everybody's agreeing with everybody in terms of what the relative priority of items are, and the town committee comes back and says, well, we think this is the cutoff point, then we're fine. We'll get however much done in terms of repair as possible. The problem is going to be if we have two competing experts with wildly different estimates of what's most important. But I don't think,
I don't think that, David, I don't think that would be the case. I think that it sounds like due diligence has been done already, and I don't see a wide variety or variance in the two analysis. And I think Mr. Falcone said earlier that there was some financial money attached to each of the priorities that BBS had done. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Why don't we go forward a little bit? We're almost out of time here, but let's go forward a little bit so you can at least see what's here. We'll probably have to stop before we get through everything, but I want to really quick go through what I think the top priority items are in terms of air quality and things that people have asked for within the district. And then we'll look at the spreadsheet, and then we'll stop, because I don't think we're going to be able to get through this in this hour. And then we'll schedule another meeting and come back and finish the process. Okay.
David?
Yes.
Before you do that, I just want to quickly respond to Dave.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Dave, I think I'm going to massacre your last name, Bajal.
That was great. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so so I think really the issue here is that we will need to go to bond, and that the more we have, more input we have from the community, and the more we can sort of spread the word that in fact we have architects who are not necessarily fleecing us, but really, sort of, that what we need to do is what they say we need to do is really needs to be done. That's one way of just simply building trust with the community so that we can pass a bond to really start fixing these buildings. So I think it's it has to do with sort of, I guess, transparency and double checking and community involvement more than anything. So I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
Anyone else? Okay. Laser, can you bring up the links page?
Yep, you just have to stop sharing your screen.
Oh, I can see everyone now.
Yes.
David, while
for
we're waiting,
a brief, precious moment, we can see each other.
David, while we're waiting, he's referencing a spreadsheet. Is this something you emailed to us as well, or is this the first time we're seeing it? Because I
It's the
don't
first
find
time
it.
you're seeing it because I had to run it past the staff to make sure that the numbers were up to date. So,
Okay.
so there's a list of projects and a list of different dates with a different cost that we can run through and plug them into, and how much money we think we have and how much money we would have to go to bond for. It's only a very preliminary, very rough estimate. We have to go back and refine everything before we could even go forward. And then we got to plug in this new expertise in the town as well. But the projects that came to the top of the heap, at least recently, are these, and I want to show you at least what they are very briefly. Okay, so ECP main building ventilation. We talked about, we actually have evacuated our ECP main building because we had, while we were grandfathered in terms of what our requirements were for air quality under normal circumstances, COVID-19 doesn't care about whether you're grandfathered in. COVID-19 will get you if you don't have decent air quality. So we had to make sure that the ventilation was as it should be, and we ended up moving kids to Highview and the staff to Highview just for the duration of the pandemic. And we're looking back at a building that does not have mechanical ventilation. So the size of the building of the main ECP building, oh, I can't do that. You have to do that. Laser, could you click on the first link?
Yep, can you see that?
Just a second. You could probably see it. I can't. Just a minute.
All right, hold on. Stop share.
I've got a button that's. There we go. Okay, so this is the main floor of the Early Childhood Center. All these rooms basically have windows that, this is just, I guess it's a converted barn, right? So it basically has old-fashioned windows around the edges, many of which are no longer cantilevered. They don't have, the weights are detached. So if you raise the window, it falls back down. There are some offices at one end of the structure that have vents, but the vents just go to the attic and they don't go anywhere. Could you back up and click to the next link? So during the course of the summer, while we were trying to figure out what we're going to do with ECP, I looked in the building conditions survey and said, hey, aren't there requirements for mechanical ventilation here? And they did in fact have that as a requirement. I kept trying to find ways of doing something cheaper that I knew we could do with the money that we had, and eventually we just pulled the kids out. So now once COVID-19, so the kids are in Highview for the year, but once the vaccine comes through and COVID-19 starts to go away, we can't double up everybody in Highview anymore. So we're going to have to put the ECP kids someplace. And the idea would be to put them back in the ECP building. We put them back in the ECP building. Gosh, it sure would be nice if we had mechanical ventilation in there. This is the email that I went through, and you will see you need to hit maybe the plus sign a couple of times to make things a little larger. That I quoted something that was in the building condition survey. Scroll down a little bit. There it is. Item 1, cost of reconstruction, $575,000. So they looked through, figured out how much it would be based upon the number of rooms there were to put in mechanical ventilation for everything. And I believe there was a set of bathrooms that needed ventilation as well. So that's the source of that. So back off. Next link. Back to the main document. So that's one item that we think is high priority. Okay. Leaf Jackson furnace control system, $450,000. You want to run the run the wind tunnel video just for a second. Now there is the air ventilation is centralized at Leaf Jackson. in terms of air intake. In the HVAC room, there is a large wall with nothing but baffles that are supposed to open and close mechanically. And there's Mike Falcone pointing to that wall, and all the wind comes through at high speeds and runs through the filters to the right there. And gosh, I was hoping we could hear the sound of the wind whistling along, but I can't hear that. But let's go to the next link. I've got a page from the walkthrough document, the preliminary walkthrough, to show you what that looks like, what the baffles look like.
So David, I'm sort of waiting again. All these,
Yeah, there we go.
I'm matching your numbers with the numbers on the facility estimated expenses forms for each building, which
Yes.
is also on the facilities page.
Yes.
That's up to date, right? What's posted there?
As far as I know, none of those numbers have changed. Amy, have any of the numbers on the facility side changed, or are all the changes you made on the finance side?
They're the same.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're looking at the control center of the HVAC room at Lee F. Jackson. As you can see, the systems are a little bit old. The pump still works, but those systems no longer are causing the mechanical ventilation to happen at the intake portion. What happens now is you have basically a giant Venetian blind in which the individual pieces are made of aluminum, and you go up on the ladder and you open or close each piece by hand. There are a number of controls that are supposed to all be working to determine, what the outside temperature is, what the inside temperature is, what the ventilation needs are, and that's supposed to happen by itself. And instead of people running up and down, because I believe Mike has told me that the system will actually shut down if it gets too cold, and then you have to go and readjust everything. So we want that to work, and that's one of our projects. Okay, back out. And yes, you're going to want to walk through and look at it yourself. Okay, I understand. Okay, then RJ Bailey classroom air intake units. That's a big ticket item. That's a $3 million item. So let's take a look at, let's go through the series of JPEGs. First JPEG. RJ Bailey has in each classroom, RJ Bailey was built, I guess, around the Great Depression era. And each classroom has an individual box, a unit that's an air intake unit. It pulls air in for that particular classroom. It interfaces with the steam heat, and so the air that's drawn in is heated by the time it gets to the kids. And the problem is, of course, that has not run in about, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. What we do is we've been opening the windows.
Over 30 years.
Yes. Over
Donnell's been there
Mike,
for
you want to
30
talk
years.
through this? Talk through this. Go ahead.
Donnell has been the head custodian over at Bailey School for 30 years. And since he's been there, they've never worked. So it's been over 30 years since the unit vents or the ventilations in the attic or anything has been working.
Next JPEG.
Quick question. Those are fan units? Are they induction units or just actually fan-driven boxes?
They pull air in from the outside and run it past pipes that are hot.
So they're fan coil units.
They're univents.
There. And then there's the exhaust is passive. There aren't any exhaust fans on the roof of Bailey.
Okay. Michael, in that photo that you're showing, that's a bottom fit. There's a motor there with a there's a motor filter and everything passing over the coils and the.
Absolutely. Well, you don't see there's no more filter there, but yes, there's a damper down below. There's also a motor that's there and 2 squirrel cages.
Next JPEG.
I have a question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why are we going through the intimate details of this particular issue? I thought we were talking about having a second opinion, go through everything and give us prioritization of what needs to be done.
That will happen, but what the complaint that I've gotten is people have no idea what these, they just see price tags and they want to know what's happening. So I don't want to stop people from knowing what's going on. A few people will go and look at the nitty gritty details, but everybody's going to want to know something. And people are actually curious as to what's been happening in terms of how are we maintaining ventilation now. So next JPEG. What we're doing now, since there's a $3 million price tag on replacing all these units, and we did an air quality a ventilation test and found that the ventilation was inadequate without it, we brought in fans, and we have a storm window, and you can see the storm window right now is closed. We build up heat overnight, and we plug the fan in, and even at a low setting, Enviro Science can go in and check to make sure that there's adequate ventilation for the students during the day when the students are in. Next JPEG. The problem, of course, with this being is that we're blowing air in from, yes. So now they've got the window open. You can see the cord, the power cord is no longer shoved over against the wall because it's on the other side of the unit. And we put the fan on low and it's enough to provide the proper ventilation. The problem is, of course, that air is not heated. We raised the fan up above the level where seated children will be, it won't be blowing directly on them, which helps some. What we don't know is that we have steam heat, so we think that we'll have enough BTUs to keep it warm through the winter, but if it gets windy enough or cold enough, we're not 100% sure, and this is not a good long-term solution. The long-term solution is that you want the air to be heated by the time it blows into the classroom, which is the $3 million thing. Okay, so then that is, of course, a decision you can show your expert. Okay, next.
Quick note, the air circulated by those $3 million replacement units, that's not fresh air.
The air is circulated by the $3 million replacement units is taken in on an individual basis for each classroom. And
yes, it's fresh air.
It's fresh air.
Isn't it just reheating air from the bottom and blowing it out the top?
No, it's a
No,
unit.
okay, there's actually an intake for each one outside the room.
Obviously you're familiar with univents. Yes, Dave? You're familiar with univents?
Yeah.
Univents
Okay, so there's a fresh air louver.
I know you're familiar with it because you're asking questions. They have two dampers.
Good.
You have an outside damper and you have a return damper. Okay. Yes, this takes outside air. There's a I don't want to call it a duct. There's a it's not a chimney. It's a channel in the wall that goes all the way up to the roof that gets fresh air that comes down. Okay, so there is two dampers for fresh air and for return air at the same time, so they can modulate, because technically you're supposed to have 20% fresh air at all times in a classroom. I believe that might be it, 25%. So that's how it works, just like any other univent that's around. But they were operable at one time over 30 years ago. They have old baffles, old pneumatic actuators that are down below that used to adjust the amount of fresh air.
Oh, great. Thank you for the clarification.
Laser, could you go hit the next page? Okay, so we're looking at the HVAC system. You'll see there the cost, the entire HVAC fix is $3,550,000, and down in the comments, it says provide unit vents throughout for mechanical fresh air introduction at 30 different locations. That's the 30 different classrooms, $3 million. That's the piece that we think we have to replace those units. Next, back out of the link.
So David, did you take out the gym and the auditorium? Did you take out the gym and the auditorium piece? Is that why you're only saying 3 million instead of 3.5?
Michael Falcone, you must say yes, because not
yeah, that is just for the univents that they were talking about.
Because they listed The auditorium, 150,000. They listed the attic, 200, which bumped up that 3 million. I'm assuming you're saying 3 million because you're taking out the pieces we've done recently.
Well, did I unmute this? Oh, I am muted. Okay, so you can hear me. Right now, I'm almost positive they did not include that in the auditorium. The auditorium right now, what I'm working on at this present time is to try to get the ventilation working in the gym area only. I was told to move forward with it. The funds have been transferred, so I'm still working on the ventilation for the gym. At the present time, I do have 2 fans in the gym to allow fresh air to come on into the gym area. But I'm hoping soon we're going to end up getting the HV contractor to go ahead and get those squirrel cage moving and the exhaust moving up in the attic.
Thank you. I'm just matching David's numbers here with the BCS numbers and the facility estimate, and they broke out the auditorium, but they didn't mention the gym at all. So that like the auditorium wouldn't be included in that 3 million number as per these estimates. So I'm just trying to match apples to apples, but thank you for clarifying the gym, because like I said, it's not broken out separately. Sorry.
Next item, I think we're just barely going to make it through this list, and we'll have to schedule another meeting. Mansion ventilation fixes per BBS email 99, $2,022,500. So the mansion, as you may remember, was shut down and evacuated primarily because we were worried about plaster falling on kids' heads. There were problems with the roof, and then there were concerns as to whether there were underlying structural problems. It turned out that the underlying structural problems weren't too bad. It was mostly the roof. So we commissioned a project to take care of that and evacuated everyone in the meantime. Then we did a second round of air testing with a greater level of sampling. And would you click on the EnviroScience testing report? I have 1 page from it. Click on that X link. Yeah, that's it. EnviroScience came in and tested everything very thoroughly, and the entire report is posted on the district website. If you look at the summary here, could you hit plus a couple of times so I can see that a little better? Zoom a little bit. Results of mold sampling and moisture inspection, right, indicate elevated concentrations of common microbial organisms. Skipping down to the next paragraph, mold remediation is required in these areas and porous contents would need to be disposed. Remediation would require the services of a licensed mold remediation contractor and development of a mold remediation plan by a licensed mold risk assessor. So we have to do the mold thing, take care of the leaks that go with it. And then elevated VOC concentrations would be resolved by reducing the quantities of organic fuels and solvents within the basement storage areas. Mike, you've taken care of that. You've removed those, correct?
Everything has been removed.
Good. And by installing an HVAC air handling system that improves building ventilation, including a fresh air intake system. Okay. So our more detailed look at air quality, we have a recommendation, and we confirmed it with the testing with EnviroScience, is that we need to install an HVAC system, and that's the justification for the $2 million additional cost for fixing the mansion before we put people back in it. All right, back off. Next link. Okay, and zoom in towards the top. So there's an itemized list of what would need to be done, and Fred Seba is from BBS Architects. as per the board's request below are the ventilation items taken from our BCS for the administration building. The total is $2,022,500, and it references the items in the building condition survey and repeats them down below. So there's our justification for the $2 million. So that's what we need in addition to what we've already approved and have already submitted plans to for SED for the new roof and the structural modifications. But this is the thing in addition to that we need to do in order to make the mansion workable again. Any comments? Back off?
Question,
Yes.
have we decided that the administration will be moving back into the mansion in the foreseeable future?
The question is, to my mind, is do we want to free up the high school? That is, they take up room in the high school, which used to belong to the students, and that would be the thing that would push people back into the mansion more than anything else. What do we want to do for the high school students? That's a priority from my perspective.
All right, but I would like to point out that when the high school was built, it was built to contain twice as many students as are currently there.
And
So
the class size was much larger, yes.
You really need to rush the administration out in order to accommodate the current number of students.
Then you would put that lower on your list of priorities in terms of what we would do and how long it would be before we would get to this. If you thought that that was not a priority one thing, you would do other things first. All right, I think we're going to make it to this list and then we're going to have to go. BCS priority 1 items for the summary sheet. This is the thing you were concerned about. Go back, click on the next link, the BCS comparison. Okay, we looked at this last meeting. So we're supposed to have a building conditions survey and capital improvement plan every 5 years. So back in 2016, H2M Architects came up with, I think, a total of $70 million for everything. They have priority 1, priority 2, 3, 4, 5, depending upon what they think the highest priority items are. 2020, BBS Architects, our current architects, did the same thing. So they have a subtotal. You see the priority 1 column on the left-hand side. They have a subtotal for each building, and then they have a total of $30,498,755. If you just went with their recommendation, that's what you would grab first. And I think that's probably more than the market will bear. The question is there a subset within that that's higher priority? Or do you think that things really cost as much as they think they do? And I guess, Mr. McCauley, you can bring your list of experts in to look at that. And what we don't have yet is the breakdown of which items in the BCS correspond to which of these subtotals. So we need to get that, and then we can do our comparison, and then we can bring the architects in, and then we can look at it.
David, if I could ask a quick question, and
Sure.
I don't know if you know the answer to this. If a bond was going to go out for vote, right? When would a bond go out? Would it go out in May? Do we have anybody online that has that information? That knows when a bond would have to be, and when does the public have to get notified?
I
We
don't
do
think
not-
there's a specific month that it has to be.
Okay, so what I would ask David is in preparation for the next time we get together, and maybe the board, it doesn't have to be really in depth, but if, as a guesstimate, if the board decided to go with a bond to the public, a proposition, when would that bond go out for a vote? And if you could we could get, that'll be the timeline, starting the timeline and driving a lot of these discussions.
Well, the board would need to make a decision on that. I don't think we're ready yet. I wanted to go through a process of informing the public of what the various options were before we would get to the point at which we would have the vote.
Yeah, I understand that, but let me just say for discussion purposes, right? If some of the buildings need immediate work, and with the bond market the way it is right now, it would be beneficial if we could get a bond floated next year, a capital bond out there next year. I think that there's no reason to think why that cannot happen. the dollar amount of the bond and the logistics, but if we were to have a small bond, not a major bond, a small bond, it's certainly not $30 million. That's not happening. But would that be a May decision, or is that unknown at this point? Or does the board set that?
Just a minute. Could you bring up, I want to show you what I thought of as, there are options A, B, C on the spreadsheet, and I had an option A, let me show you that. Amy, can you bring up your Excel spreadsheet?
Laser has it.
All right. Laser, can you bring up the Excel spreadsheet? Okay, now go to there should be several tabs across the bottom. I can't see the tabs from here. I assume you can. So I'm looking
Yeah,
for
there's option
tab
A.
for option A.
Yep.
Okay. So this is an example. The left-hand column has all the items that I've just mentioned that we've just gone through listed. You have the furnace control system for $450,000, the classroom air intake for $3 million, the mansion ventilation for $2 million, the $30 million BCS priority 1, the ECP wing. I haven't even talked about that yet. Many people want ECP to be in one spot. That would cost money as well. So then what we're doing is we're going year by year. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that the tops of the columns, could you scroll up to the top of the, okay, there, good. Right, 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, right? We have several years during which we can allocate various amounts of money. We have approximately $4.1 million down there under C, the funds available from the capital tab that we went over last time. We have $4.1 million in reserve. So we could say do the ECP main building, the Lee Jackson furnace control system, and the RJ Bailey classroom air intake stuff with existing funds that we have and not float a bond. Then the following year, if we tried to do the mansion, then what would happen is we would run out of money. If you look down towards the bottom, if you see the little red ink down there where it says $549,000, we've been pulling in $1.3 million per year allocated in our regular budget to try and deal with facilities issues. So that's there. The previous balance of leftover from what we had in our reserves is there. So we would end up having to have like a $549,000 bond in order to get the mansion up and running. Okay. If we took the building condition survey stuff and did that in a year that followed that, and I'm not really sure if we should have it that far out, and combined it with the ECP, then we have a significantly larger bond. By which point we should no longer be in COVID-19 economic downturn. Employment rates we hope will be better. Everything will have improved, and people will be able to handle a larger bond at that time. We can also work on pulling more money from other reserves.
David,
we can
with all
also
due
work
respect,
on making those numbers smaller.
David, with all due respect, Mona Freitag sent something out a few minutes ago, and
okay,
it's a serious comment, and there is no discussion that the community will have with a $25 or $30 million bond, whether it's next year or the following year. The community is bleeding cash. One of the things that the Financial Advisory Committee was discussing is that a lot of school districts and municipalities are holding on to their capital reserves and borrowing since the interest rates are so low, which will go away. But that $30 million number that's up there is a dead issue in the town of Hartsdale.
So then what you have to do, since that is the priority
we need to find a
subset of that issue.
And that's true. And that's what you need to do. You need to do the need to do stuff, the want to do stuff, and then the plan to do stuff. And as Walter used to talk about, there needs to be a 10-year plan. But I agree fully with Mona that, if you're talking about a small increase, that's not a small increase next year. It's a huge increase. However, it may be better to borrow at a low rate and save the capital reserve. So that's a discussion for future, but anything in the above us, you know, when I say small, anything, you know, you go above $10 million, it's not even worth printing the paper. It's not,
Okay.
it's
So,
just too much. And
this
so,
is just one possible option. Our idea was to get together as a group, come up with multiple options, and then forward all of that, and we'll try and work your team of experts in, and they'll have an effect on what those numbers are as well. We need to get off right now, and I need to talk to VBS Architects to find out when they're available, and we'll let you know when the next meeting happens. Are there
David,
any
two
other
things.
concerns anybody wants to bring up before we sign off?
Two things. I don't see my hand. In that column B, where it says total cost 45,000, you have to remove 6,000 of that because it's duplicate cost, number one. So
Correct.
that's total cost of 10,000. Second thing, on the spreadsheet where you broke it down by year one, year two, I easily did that looking at those facility estimated expenses forms. All of the ventilation and HVAC issues are priority year one, codes 87 and 88. So numbers are right in front of us. I could just do the math and quickly zap that to you and you have it. Secondly, for next meeting, I'd appreciate, first of all, if you share some of this information with us on email. And could we also break out, or I can break out for you, you've listed all the ventilation HVAC issues for, or not all the HVAC issues, for the 3 buildings. I'd like to also just see Highview and Woodlands Middle High School, because that could be a possible option for the priorities. That's all. Thank you. I know it's tight timing here.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Yes,
Carol?
I just have a quick comment regarding all of this and what was being posted in the chat room. I think that there is a way of doing the process differently, which is just to simply, you know, figure out what would be a small, reasonable amount of money that the, you know, bond that the community would be willing to support, and then work backwards from that to address the, you know, with the money that we think we likely could get, to work backwards, you know, into those major priorities. So just a thought.
Good. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.